Quebec, Canada, fighting Troy the Destroyer Dorsey, 12 rounds for the World Super Lightweight Championship.
What are you going to do now as far as kickboxing?
First, I want to thank God, say hello to my wife, Shelly and Kendra. Happy birthday, Shane, and thank all of my instructors and students at my school. Now, pick up kickboxing and boxing both again and go after a world title.
Okay, thank you.
All right. The winner and still Hurricane World Super Lightweight Champion of the world, Troy the Destroyer Dorsey!
Hey Destroyers, welcome back to If the Gloves Could Talk. I'm your host, Bryce George, and welcome to episode 8 of this series featuring Troy the Destroyer Dorsey. Last week was actually a highlights episode, in case you missed it. We featured some of our favorite parts of the series so far, from our Blast from the Past segments to our interviews to just hanging out with Troy. I still say it's so fun getting to do this podcast with him, and I just love that I get to learn something new every single time that we film and record, and I feel like that's something pretty cool to say. So episode 8, you're probably wondering what we have in store for you guys. Of course, we have our Blast from the Past segment, our interview. We're also going to be recapping at the end of this episode over the great interview we had with Hillary Sandoval. So we'll talk more about him later on in this episode. But hold on to your gloves, get ready for this fun episode we have ahead, and I'll see you when we get back.
Well, Mr. Larkin, son used to train at my school, so he had been into the building many times, and I guess that was probably 10 years ago. So we put the building on the market, and Mr. Larkin came by and made me an offer, and my wife and I prayed about it and talked about it, and then we decided we wanted to go ahead and do it. So we sold the building to Mr. Larkin and couldn't have sold it to a better man, and he's going to put it to use, and I get to work there also. So it really is a win-win, win-win-win situation. Thank God for Mr. Larkin and his kindness. So we purchased the building in June 1999, and when I say we, my wife and I, her father and her mother passed away, and I was driving to Dallas, 42 miles to my school from pretty much 81 to 99. So she said, Troy, you should open up a school here in Mansfield. So I took her lead, and her being thoughtful and kind and thinking of me so that I wouldn't have to make the long drive, 42 miles actually, to my school in Dallas. And so we opened the school there in Mansfield. Mr. Larkin came in and made me an offer, like I said, and really his kindness, and I couldn't have sold it to a better guy. So sold it last year, and now it's just been retransitioned. We moved to our current location, 1848 Lone Star Road, Suite 410 and 412, and we're still teaching kicking a bunch in there. So the thing is about martial arts, the students don't have to have certain things. Like we had a huge building there that was just, a lot of the space wasn't being used. So it just so happened I merged all of what we did together, boxing and kickboxing and martial arts all together, and Muay Thai, so that we're doing that now at our school. So that's what this move caused me to do, really, and it worked out perfectly because we started Troy Dorsey Kickboxing Organization, Ty Garrett from Amarillo, and Garrett Poole from New Braunfels, and that's what we did. We stopped teaching traditional martial arts, doing katas and blocking and punching and doing this. We don't do that anymore. It's just kickboxing and boxing and Muay Thai and American karate. So we don't do katas anymore. And some people would say that, what are you doing? You're leaving that behind. But it's just something that I never did really enjoy. And it was also, I didn't really see the necessity for it. So right now it's just kicking and punching, and we're having a fun time doing this, and people can earn their black belt and even go to 10th degree black belt under our system to train in basically martial arts training. We call it extreme martial arts. So it was hard to let it go. Yes, I've been there for 99 to 22. So that's a lot of years being in one place, and it really was a nice building. And I bought the building from Matt Crocker, and his grandson, James Crocker, is now a secondary black belt with us. He's been working out with us for like 7 or 8 years. So he wants to get his 10th degree black belt. So Lord willing, I'll be there, which it usually takes about 40 years from 1st degree black belt to 10th degree black belt. Somewhere around 40 years to be able to become that. But so he's set his goal for that, and he's an amazing young man, and I can't wait to hand him that 10th degree black belt in another 38 years, or maybe I guess it would be 32 years, something like that, give or take. So granddaughter and my grandson are doing great. It's just they are trying to talk, and they're talking, maybe it's called gibberish. It's just, we figure out what they want somehow, but anyways, they're just amazing. Baby's, my daughter is staying with us, and of course our baby for the next 3 days. They spent the night last night. So yeah, they're just amazing. And my little Lorenzo is my grandson, and Olivia is the granddaughter, and Lorenzo is like me, small, super small, small, super small. And then my granddaughter, she is in the 95th percentile, big. So we got a big one and we got a little one. And
said, what are you wanting them to call you?
They call me Papa.
That's what I call
Papa, Papa.
They can say it though?
They can say it. And they call my wife Gigi. Yeah, I'm not having a hard time, but it is like amazing that I get to be a grandpa. I mean, it was just, it's the perfect deal for me to be able to tell my story to hopefully the world, but just to let people know that I'm just so blessed. The Lord given me the skill to be able to do martial arts, and it's not really a skill. I guess what I should have said is a gift. The gift, the martial arts, to be able to do the martial arts when I was a little boy, and then going on to the 8-time world champion. So that's a big jump, saying that, but just all the things that I've been through there, I'm just so fortunate. I met my wife in 1982, February. So here we are in our 42nd year, I guess, or 41st year. What would that be? My math's not too good, and I forgot my calculator in my fingers. But yeah, my wife, we met in February 82, got married in 86. We have 2 wonderful kids and 2 wonderful grandkids. So it's been so fast. It's went by so fast. The time on earth, the Bible says this time on earth is but a vapor. And some translations say this time on earth is but a mist. So it really is just, we're here for a while and then we're gone. So with this, my family will be able to see the dumb things that I've done and the halfway smart things that I've done and the other things that I've been so fortunate to be able to be blessed that the Lord had opened the doors for me to own my own business from 1981 to now. And I'm not bragging, but there are a lot of schools that have went out of business. There are a lot of businesses. People open business and I'm not a businessman really. It's just that I think the Lord has just allowed me to do it because that's what He made me for. The people of Mansfield, my instructor Jim Choate was raised here in Mansfield. I'm not sure if he was born here or not, but he so it was because of him that I started martial arts. It's his fault. Joke, laugh out loud, whatever you want to say. No, I've been so fortunate to be able to do what I've loved to be able to do. And Jim Choate is the one who, my instructor, and led me to my first karate tournament, took me to my first kickboxing match, and then he trained me for my first kickboxing match. He and I fought on the same card. He was the main event, and I was the first fight. So I was the way down here, and he's the way up here. But now, then I got to be able to take those opportunities several times and be main event. Fighting on television, fighting in Europe, going to Europe 8 times, going to Mexico, Canada, all over America, New York, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Montana, California, Arizona. That's just a few that I can think of. So, yes. Now back to the question. What was your question?
What does the city of Mansfield mean to you?
Well, they've always been so supportive of me, and I'm thankful for that. The mayor, David Cook, has really been kind and been to my place several times in downtown. He hasn't seen the new place yet, but anyways, the support there has been from our mayor, our former mayor. He's a state representative now, but his support and just the people of Mansfield, the people that that have moved here and the people that have been raised here, and there's just been such an overwhelming support and supporting my business, martial arts, because in martial arts we don't teach just kicking and punches. We talk about respect and self-control and discipline. Come on. My name is Troy Dorsey. We offer martial arts and karate training and fitness kickboxing training. Our karate program is for men, women, and children of all ages. From 4 and a half, we even have a student that's 91 years old. Also, we teach fitness kickboxing. It's a 1-hour non-contact class of punching and kicking a bag, because hitting a bag is like weightlifting to help strengthen and tone your muscles. Give us a call at 817-477-5523. Come in and see us today and start your martial arts experience with us now.
I've decided I just need to be like quicker and not like spend a whole lot of time on this. Okay. So we're back from the, I'm just gonna rewind, okay. Okay, we are back from the Blast from the Past segment, and as always, it's pretty cool seeing the past recordings we've done with Troy. It reminds me of things I completely forgot that we talked about. Also reminds me what I probably need to bring up again with him. So it's always great getting to see those. Next, my favorite part of this episode today, we have our interview with Hillary Sandoval. So a little bit about Hillary. He was Troy's promoter and manager for about 10 years during his career. Hillary and his brother Tony also brought El Paso its first world championship, and Hillary is now currently in the El Paso Martial Arts Hall of Fame. So lots of greatness there. We are going to speak on several topics, from how he started his promoting career at a very young age, what it was like working with his brother, what it was like promoting for Troy, and specifically how the Greek inspired not just Hillary, but Troy in his fighting career. So lots of great stuff we're going to dive into. So when we're right back from this interview, we're going to recap this episode, and I'll see y'all in a minute. Welcome back, Destroyers, to If the Gloves Could Talk. We've got a very exciting interview today with a super special guest. But before I get into introducing our guest, Troy, how excited are you to have our guest on the show today?
Oh, I always like talking to Hillary, and now we get to see him. Not actually in person, but he's in El Paso. I'm in Mansfield right now, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him, hearing him, seeing his face.
And see, that's the power of technology we have here is we get to talk to our friend all the way in El Paso, and it feels like he's really here with us. But Hillary, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Doing great, and I'm really honored to be asked to Troy to speak with you all. And it's always great to talk to Troy. We've known each other for a long, long time, and one of the nicest persons, and of course, one of the most talented persons I know.
100%.
Thank you, Hillary.
And Hillary, instead of me doing an introduction for you, how about you introduce yourself to us and our viewers today?
Sure. I had brain surgery when I was 15 years old. Before that, I was really into basketball. I'm 6'5", so I played basketball all my life. When I had brain surgery, I missed school for a year. And it was actually a doctor that recommended martial arts for me. He said you can go at your own pace and do your own thing. So that became my new love was martial arts after the surgery. And I just loved it from day one. I had a great instructor, and I just had a love for it. When I was 16, I went to a karate tournament in Dallas called the United States National Championship by Alan Steen. And it was the first big tournament I'd ever been to. Most of the tournaments I'd been to in El Paso were in high school gyms. This was in a big arena, and they had a whole bunch of rings. And I just remember the crowd getting really excited. And there was a fighter I had read about him. His name was Demetrius Cavanis, and he was fighting at that time. And I saw him, and I just had never seen that kind of talent in my life before. And he actually got disqualified that day. He threw a spinning, jumping back kick and broke the guy's nose, knocked him out. Back then, that much contact, you get disqualified. But I made my mind up at 16 that I wanted to bring him to El Paso and show El Paso people. That's when I decided I wanted to be a promoter. So I'd carry around a loose leaf notebook with me to school. And instead of paying attention to school, I was writing down what my dream promotion would be like. I'd have a regular karate tournament during the day and kickboxing matches at night. And the main event was going to be Demetrius. And I did that first show right after graduating from high school. That was in 1977. And just became a promoter from there on. Later on, got into martial arts food business in 1988. But was a promoter for a long, long time. The first time I saw Troy, I believe it was in 79 or 80. And I was watching the fight. He was very young. It was his first kickboxing match. And a man by the name of D.K. Price, he used to be one of Greek's cornermen when Greek would kickbox. He came up to me and my brother and he said, "Keep an eye on this kid. He's going to be a world champion one day." And it must have been 7 or 8 years later, his prophecy came true and Troy became a world champion. And of course, the only fighter to be a world champion kickboxer and boxer at the same time. So Troy's quite accomplished, and I'm very honored and proud to have him as a friend.
I think we can all say that. And I want to add to mentioning the Greek, Troy, how important did Demetrius play a role in your career and you getting started?
Well, I was at the fights in Dallas, at the Dallas Anatole Hotel, and I saw a great fight. My instructor took me to the fight, Jim Choate, and we were both there watching. And when I saw Demetrius Havanas fight kickbox, then I immediately knew what I wanted to do in the martial arts, kickboxing. Yeah, Demetrius, he promoted the fights, and also he fought as the main event in the fights.
Wow.
And he was amazing. He was an amazing martial artist, and his life ended early with Hillary's brother in the plane crash as they were flying to a fight in Atlantic City to watch Cliff Thomas. So it was Karen Ruffin, Demetri Vanis, Hillary's brother. His name again, Hillary? Tony Sandoval. And also one more person, D.K. Price. He was the pilot. And he was one of our students at a martial arts school that I had trained at. And I'd been with that plane to Oklahoma and El Paso for one of my fights in El Paso that Hillary promoted. So that was really terrible, tragic accidents. We lost a lot of great people that day.
Hillary, what was your perspective like with the plane crash, and your brother Tony was your business partner? What was that like for you?
Tony, he died at 18, but he lived an incredible life. I was 18 when I did my first show. He was my business partner, and he was 12. And I'm much more introverted by nature. Tony was very extroverted. He never met a microphone he didn't like. He had the gift of gab. He was born to be a promoter. And without him, the world championship fights and everything that I was able to do later on would not have been possible. He set the foundation, and he just had that belief, that confidence in himself. He was just a natural speaker. And he, like the saying goes, he could sell ice cubes to the Eskimos. He just had that personality. And I was more behind the scenes, kind of planning everything, where he was a front man for our promotion. So it was an adjustment for me when he passed. I had to learn to get out in front of the microphones and start talking. I could never match his talent, but I did have the knowledge along the way. And when I first saw Troy fight, you can tell when somebody's special. And when DK told me that he's going to be a champion one day, I saw the talent. And I've often told people, to get to Troy's level, to get to that elite world champion level, you need two things. One is God's had to have blessed you with some special talent, but that's not enough. You have to have the willingness to work hard, to dedicate, to sacrifice. Troy had both of those. I've seen some people born with great talent, but didn't have the work ethic. And I've seen people with great work ethic that just didn't have the talent to make it to the top. Troy had both. He was willing to work hard, and he had that natural talent. And you bring up Greek, is so many people, when they see Troy, they're reminded of Greek, about the same height, the same fighting style. You can tell by watching Troy that Greek had a great influence in his fighting style, because they were very, very similar. And I'm sure Troy will take that as a great compliment, because Greek was just an amazing fighter.
Yeah, I saw Greek, and I wanted to fight like him. So that's what you're saying. I fought like him. It's because that was my plan.
Well, it sounds like your plan went according to plan. So
yes.
And you could see it not just even in kickboxing, which he was more famous for, but even in point karate, you could see a lot of influence of Demetrius there. I think he was the biggest figure to ever come out of Texas karate. He's still honored today. There's a Golden Greek Award, and he's just really an icon. And Troy kind of took that mantle, and Troy, by winning a world boxing title, he brought a lot of publicity to kickboxing. That, when I got in boxing, people kind of had a tendency to look down at it, thumb their nose. And Troy winning the world title kind of showed, hey, these guys are for real. They're great athletes. They can do all these things. You're not just defending yourself against the punches, you're defending yourself against punches and kicks coming from all angles. And Troy was one of the few people that could do both and be a world champion at both, which is pretty incredible because they're very different arts.
So can you tell us, Hillary, again, how long did you promote Troy, and what were some of the other fighters that you promoted as well during your career?
Sure. I think over the years, I had like 23 world champions fight on my cards. Probably the most well-known was in El Paso, and by the name of Cliff Magic Thomas, and Troy knows him real well. And he was the first one to ever win a world title in professional sports in El Paso. And we did that in 1980. And we were really, Tony and I were just kids, and we were doing a world championship fight. It was on ESPN. We had quite a few shows on ESPN. And one newspaper called us the Blues Brothers promoters. We would bring the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders down. We had Chuck Norris, George Chung, Cynthia Rothrock, Ernie Reyes Jr., Cheech and Chong even showed at some of our shows, Randall Tex Cobb. So we had a lot of great people come to our events, and a lot of world champions. Troy fought there. Troy was one of the favorites. I think the first time I had Troy fight for me, he knocked out his opponent in 10 seconds. So
do you remember that fight?
I remember it. I remember it wrong, maybe 9 seconds. I thought it was the 9-second knockout. So the fastest knockout in kickboxing, 9 seconds.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. So as a promoter, you're looking for two things. Is one, you're looking for somebody that can put people into seats, and two, somebody that's going to put on a good show for you. And Troy always did that. You knew when he was going to step in the ring, he was always well prepared, and he was going to give his best effort. There was no quit in Troy. What I like about combat sports, it's kind of a mirror to life, because in boxing or kickboxing you can get knocked down, and there's times you want to quit. You're tired. You can't hold your hands up, and it just doesn't things going your way, and you reach down inside yourself and you find something that keeps you going, that heart, that intestinal fortitude. And life hits us, and sometimes life hits us a lot harder than a punch or a kick. And that's where you have to dig down deep inside yourself and keep going. And Troy definitely had that as a fighter, no doubt. In my life, as good as a person is that he is in the ring, he's even a better person outside the ring. So he's always got a kind word to say about somebody, and always gives a good example. One of the things when I had a karate school, one of the parts of our student creed is, how do we lead? And the students replied, by example, sir. Troy's always set a good example for others. And with his karate school and all that, the students all have a great example to follow in Troy, and how to live life and how to give your best and how to always treat people right.
I love that. And since you brought up your school, Hillary, can you tell us about starting your martial arts business, why you'd recommend somebody getting into it, or advice you'd give to them?
Sure. I started karate in 1974. I got into the school business in 1988, kind of took a break from promoting. And I think as far as what martial arts can do for children, there's nothing better. One of my favorite quotes was by Frederick Douglass. He was a slave, later became friends with Abraham Lincoln. He was an abolitionist, an author, a speaker. And he said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." And nothing builds stronger children than martial arts. And I'm not talking just about the ability to defend yourself or the physical shape. I'm talking about the mental characteristics of martial arts. It teaches children to set goals. Think about it. Kid goes to martial arts, maybe 7 years. He sticks to the program for 4 years. He goes through, he's having trouble with some of the techniques till he perfects the techniques. There's times he didn't want to go, but he kept going. He had that discipline to keep going, and he gets his black belt. How does that prepare that child for life? He had a goal and he stuck to it for 4 years, did all the hard work, accomplished it. And great thing about martial arts, it has a built-in set goal setting program within it. You just don't go from white to black belt. You have yellow, you have orange, and the other purple belts. So it's kind of you get the short-term goals along with the long-term goal of getting a black belt. So each time a child earns a belt, he gets a sense of achievement, or she gets a sense of achievement. And then they set the goal a little higher. They get that. They feel better about themselves. They set the goal higher till they reach that black belt. So you think about that kid that stuck to a program for 4 years, got his black belt. What are his chances when he goes to college and he sets a goal for a specific degree? That child's going to learn a real important goal or a real important lesson early in life. That if you have a goal, you have a plan to achieve that goal, and you're willing to put in the work and dedicate yourself, you can do anything you put your mind to. And to me, what martial arts teaches that better than anything. And Troy knows that. I'm sure he has a lot of success stories. How long have you been in the martial arts school business, Troy?
For 42 years in October.
42 years. I mean, you think about that. How many kids' lives did Troy influence? And we had a poster on the wall of our karate school that always meant a lot to me. And it says, in the end, it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you own, or how much money you made. The biggest thing is that you made the difference in the life of a child. And you think about Troy being in the martial arts business for 42 years. How many kids were you able to help, Troy?
I hope that helped a lot. That's our goal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's the greatest thing is when you see a kid that was maybe grabbing on to his mother's leg and wouldn't leave when he came to the karate school the first time, and you see him get his black belt, you see him go up to a stranger and introduce himself and handle himself with confidence and belief. I don't think you can put a value on what martial arts does. So as a promoter, I had some exciting times. I was blessed to be part of some world championships and exciting fights. But it doesn't match when I had a parent come up to me and says, what you did for my child is life-changing. And I think that's what martial arts schools do across the country better than anything out there that there is. So, and I think right now in the younger generation, we're kind of promoting a victim mentality, and that doesn't do kids any good. I think martial arts doesn't give children a victim mentality. It gives them a victor mentality, that they can have victory over all their challenges in life. And I think martial arts instructors like Troy and all around the country, they're the unsung heroes of this country.
I love that. And I try to mention at least each interview that we do, we are in Troy's old karate studio. You were here for 22 years? 21?
22.
22 years in this building that we're in downtown Mansfield, and is now currently a video production studio. But wow. I know for sure the amazing memories that were had in here by all of the kids and adults too that took lessons from Troy. And me and everyone on my team, we're so proud to be able to work here, call it our home, and also call it the home of Troy Dorsey's famous karate school in Mansfield. You know, everyone knew, like, this was the place. Everyone knew about here. Everybody took their kid here for lessons, and I think that just really says something about Troy. So
Well, 42 years is a long time. I stayed involved in the martial arts business for 32. I was going on my 33rd year. And I still work with karate schools, and I'm blessed. And in fact, I'm here at a friend of mine's karate school doing this interview. And they're carrying on from where I started in '88. And I just love martial arts from my first day at that I took a lesson, and it's just been something that I've been involved in all my life.
I love that. I do want to quickly go back, Hillary, to when you were mentioning all of the guests and the people that you're able to get at, your fights that you were promoting. How at 18 years old and your brother at 12 years old were you getting folks like you were talking to at your events? Like, how do you do that?
Well, I saw the other day that you had Roy Curbin on the show, and he's fantastic. He was a referee at our first show, and we had, of course, we had Demetrius Greek and another fighter by the name of Ishmael Robles. And the fact that they agreed to work with us, so I had people like Roy Curbin and Ishmael Robles and Demetrius Havanis working with us. That gave us legitimacy, because some people just thought, well, these guys are kids. And if you heard my brother speak, I'll tell you a story. We lost money on our first promotion, but my brother, he actually made money. He was 12 years old, and I told him he could have the program. So what he did is he got a ruler and a plain piece of typing paper, and he drew a line with a pin down the middle and then across, and
Computers
one
back then.
section. What?
There are no
There were no
computers
computers back then. He was the computer.
And a quarter was a half page. The line in the middle was the quarter was a quarter page. The line in the middle was a half page, and then of course the whole page was a full page ad. He dressed up in his suit. He had a briefcase, and my mother would drive him from bank to bank, and he'd walk in with his briefcase and his suit and tie on and ask to speak to the bank manager. And they were just so blown away that he had that confidence to go up and ask. He was 12 years old. He ended up making $1,400 on the program.
I love that.
Back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was 77.
77.
wow.
77 today. And just to tell you how he was, I told Bryce the story yesterday. We lived in Washington, D.C. for 2 years. Back then, my father at the time, he was appointed to the Small Business Administration, which was the highest post ever given to a Mexican American in history in the United States at that time. So we lived 2 years in Washington, D.C. This was under Nixon. And a man knocks on my mother's door. We were living in Chevy Chase, Maryland at the time. And he asked my mother for his shoes. And my mother looks at him and says, well, what would your shoes be doing here? And what she had discovered, Tony had started his own shoe shining business. He had a little red wagon, the kind that you would see in the Norman Rockwell painting. And he went to neighbor with his own home shoe shine business. And the basement was covered with shoes. And he just went from door to door, knocking on the doors, picking up shoes, taking them home to shoe shine them. So he was just blessed with that from a young age. We even got to meet President Nixon one time. We're standing in line, and the first lady goes up to the first lady, grabs her hand, bends down and kisses her hand. And I remember Richard Nixon asking me, does he give you a lot of trouble? And I just, yes, sir, Mr. President, he gives me a lot of trouble.
I love that.
So
That's
he
great.
was just born with that.
Oh, definitely. From just the few stories I've heard of, your brother, it was a natural instinct for him.
Yeah, it wasn't something learned. It was just
Right.
something that he was born with. I didn't have the personality or the aggressiveness to go out there. In fact, the story with Greek is I had something to do when Greek came into town for the first fight he had with us, and a friend had drove my brother to the airport to pick him up. And when he saw my brother, he thought that somebody had played a practical joke, and he was going to have to go back to Dallas that day. And oh no, this is real. We're serious. We're having a fight. But he actually thought it was a practical.
Well, I think that is honestly the moral of today's interview and today's show is obviously you and your brother had a great career in working together, but I think there's something we can all learn from your brother for sure about just being a go-getter, and if there's something you want and something you feel like you need, you have to work for it. And again, I think that's something very much taught in martial arts. Again, that's why it's so important, if you can, to put your kids in martial arts school. But I think the moral of today's interview is don't be afraid and go get it. You know, put yourself out there and always put your best foot forward.
Yeah, never ever give up.
That's right.
Yeah, and that exemplifies Troy's career as a fighter. You could just tell he had that never say die attitude. Sometimes it's tough. People don't realize getting kicked and punched in the face is not easy. A lot of people watch it on TV and they think they can do it. I don't know how many times people came to the gym to spar with Cliff Thomas, and they'd spar once and you never see him again. You know, it's hard, and it really takes a lot of intestinal fortitude when to keep going when your body's hurt and your arms are heavy and you can't keep them up. And Troy just had that never quit attitude. There was absolutely no quit in him, and you could see that in every one of his fights. And he was always probably in the best shape. But I believe Troy held the record for throwing more punches in a round, averaging more punches in a round than any other world championship fight. Am I correct, Troy?
It was I landed the most punches in a world title boxing match. I landed 633 punches in a Jorge Paez February 4th, and then I lost the fight. So I guess I should have landed more punches.
He didn't lose. He didn't lose that fight. I was there. That was one of the worst decisions. In fact, I heard, because it was on NBC, and I heard they got a lot of complaints about it. Troy won that fight, you know, and that, to me, Troy, let me ask you, how tough is it to come back when you know you gave it your best effort, and you know there's no doubt in your mind that the judges weren't fair? And Las Vegas boxing is famous for that.
Yes.
How tough
Well,
is it for you to?
Go ahead.
How tough was it to get motivated when you gave it your best, and the judges didn't treat you fairly? My
parents always taught me not to give up. They never gave up, although they were in very, very difficult situations. But they didn't ever give up. So I was raised that way. And then my wife has always been my pretty much number one supporter since we got married in '86, to don't give up, Troy. You can do it. Always supporting me, taking care of my kids, cooking meals 3 times a day for me, and let me go to bed early, let me sleep late, getting good rest. There's so many ingredients that it takes to become a champion. It's not just learn how to fight. What about you learn how to eat, learn how to exercise, you learn how to think, number one, and you learn how to fight. Yeah, I remember seeing Leslie at a lot of the fights. She was your biggest cheerleader. Yeah,
She still was.
And I think it's tough for wives to watch their husbands going through that.
You know, 37 years this year of marriage.
That's great. That's awesome.
I'm blessed, for sure. Thank you, Jesus.
Well, thank you so much, guys, and thank you especially, Hillary, for joining us from El Paso today here at the studio. Troy and I were so excited to have you on, and of course, no surprise, it was a fantastic interview. So thank you so much, Hillary, for joining us.
Anything you'd like to end with, Hillary?
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and during my career as a promoter, I got to work with a lot of great people. And probably to me, the greatest thing about being a promoter was the friends I made along the way. And I couldn't be prouder to call Troy a good friend and a brother to me.
Yes, sir.
And,
We're brothers in Jesus now.
Definitely.
Yes.
And he, as far as Jesus and all, Troy's been a huge influence on my life.
Thank you.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Hillary. We will have to have you back on the show. We will see you next time. And thank you so much for joining If the Gloves Could Talk.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Hillary. Appreciate it.
Man, that was such a good interview. Getting to watch that with Hillary, specifically him speaking about his brother Tony. I said it after we were done filming that I really feel like Tony was with us in that interview. And I truly do want to dedicate this episode and the interview to Tony. I think there's a lot we can learn from him and his tenacity at such a young age. And I'm greatly appreciative that Hillary shared his story with us and the story of the plane crash. And just, Hillary has a lot of wisdom to share. And I'm glad that not just myself, but you guys are going to be able to hear some of that and hopefully gain just a little bit of it. As always, thank you guys so much for watching If the Gloves Could Talk. We'll be back next week with another Blast from the Past segment, another interview, and more Troy Dorsey content. All right, thanks Destroyers for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.